Good afternoon. It is 1:30. We are in City Council's chambers and we'll convene the meeting of the January 2nd Board of Adjustment. We are here to hear special exemptions, variances to the zoning code, and oil and gas related cases. With that, I'll call for a motion to receive the minutes of the December 5th meeting.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passed unanimously. Next will be our request for continuances and withdrawals, and from the staff.
We have one today, item number 10, case number 13831, has requested a continuance to February 6th.
Any requests from the public for continuance?
On case number 13831, I'll move to continue it to February 6, 2014.
Second. All in favor? Very good. There being no items on the consent docket, we'll call the first case.
Item number 1, case number 13781, request of Timbercraft Homes for a variance to the platted limits of no access to permit a residential driveway on Pleasant Grove Lane located at 8400 Northwest 140th Street.
Do you see anybody?
All right, I'm going to abstain on this one.
Okay. Before you get started, I know Mr. Voorhees has to abstain himself. Are you representing them on case number 1 and case number 4 as well?
I think so, yes. I didn't know.
If you want to do them back to back, that'd be
okay.
If that's okay with everybody.
He was saying there was 1, 3, and 4.
Right, but there's 1 and 4 are Timbercraft.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Chad Randall, 2417 Barclay, Oklahoma City, 73120.
Go ahead and state your application.
Pardon me, I'm kind of proxying for the person that was handling this originally. As I understand it, we brought the permit down to the city. We're permitted as built, and then in arrears they found out that there was originally a limit of no access for a side entrance driveway at that address. But at that point we had already poured the drive and were farther along in construction. So we got a letter of no objection from the developer in the area and applied for the variance for the permit. The home is complete. There's a homeowner in it. We've been issued a certificate of occupancy.
Is there anyone here today objecting to your application that you're aware of?
Not that I know of, no.
I'd make a motion to approve the application.
And a second? Any questions?
I guess I do have a question. Do we know what the point or purpose of the limits of no access were originally?
We generally place limits of no access on the plat when the side lot is on the collector street. Pleasant Grove is a collector.
So it was just more of a general policy determination.
Right.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? None opposed. You want to go ahead and talk to case number 4?
Okay. And can you give me the address on number 4, please?
Oh.
8429 Northwest 142nd.
That one, due to an error in calculation based on an old plot that we had, there was a secondary easement that we were unaware of when we first built, and our home ended up being just a little bit too far forward of the front building line. It was less than 5 feet. I don't remember the exact measurement, but we're asking for a variance on that.
Question?
Have any objections
No, sir.
to your application? I'd make a motion to approve the variance, please.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we'll go to case number 2.
Item number 2, case number 13821, request of Rob Holloway for a variance to the maximum number of permitted signs and the maximum height located at 14343 North MacArthur Boulevard.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We have the church there at 14343 North MacArthur. This year, the city moved the street closer when they widened MacArthur out to, I think it's 5 lanes there now with a turn lane. You got 2 going each way and a turn, and it also widens out on our property, and they've gotten so close to the existing sign that it almost renders it useless for anybody coming from the north because you're so close to it. It runs parallel with the street, and with no distance back to even look at it, it's pretty worthless. So we want to add this one down the south end of our property that's turned at an angle to the street where they can read it from both directions coming, and we do want to upgrade that to a digital sign.
Questions from the board?
It's my understanding that the only thing that you really wanted to do was to increase the height of the sign, a new sign, and make it taller. I didn't know it was digital.
Well, we have a PUD for this property, and it listed just to have the one sign, and we really can't demolish the one that's in there. It's a monolith of concrete that's 40 feet long, and it would take more to take it out than would be worth doing. But so we're adding this secondary sign, which actually is a more readable application than what we have now down the south end of the property. And I think our PUD originally called for them not to exceed 8 feet, and this one's 10 feet 6 or something like that to the top of the molding. It is a monument style.
Can you speak to the need for increasing it from 8 feet to 10.5 feet, and would you object if the variance was given limiting it to 8 feet?
It would put it so low to the ground, I think it would not be quite as usable, because you'd be trying to look through cars as you're driving past to see that. It's going to drop that line of vision down to where you're looking through obstructions to see what's on it. We're not up on a pole like IBC or Brahms is, those are 15 feet or what they are, so whatever they're in that
Yeah, but
range.
those aren't digital, right?
Sir?
Those are not digital, right?
IBC's is, yes, sir. The one directly to the south of us is digital.
It seems to me that one reason the original sign is ineffective is the road has been widened, but
Yes,
the
sir.
big thing is the sign runs straight north and south, and so traffic from the north and the south, obviously have to look over at the right time to see it. When the church was built 25 years ago, that was the only thing there, and
That's
so
correct.
it's much easier for people to identify and
Yes,
find
sir.
the church. Placing a sign at the far south end of your property allows people to drive past either 2 or 3 entrances, before they're close to the sign. It seems to me that, maybe looking at your existing monument sign, the placement of that is right up by your building, and maybe, reconfiguring that in a way so that it was more visible from the north and the south, and using the signs that you've got at one of your entrances to help people find the driveways into your parking lot.
Well, the
Might be
other
worth considering.
purpose for this new sign is obviously to put a little bit of programming on up there too as well, which we aren't able to do with a concrete monolith that we've got now. The sign that's existing in the position that shows up there right now is basically it's a 40-foot long concrete wall. It's about this tall, but it sits up on a berm, and from the middle of that section between those entrances all the way up till you get past the north entrance, it's all bermed up very high already, and there's trees, and there's really not a good application for another sign in there anywhere.
The other thing, too, is you're right across the street from Gaillardia. I mean, at least IBC and Brahms are farther south.
Well, and the other thing in the past when we've looked at digital signs, the one thing that we're concerned about is the residential aspect. Is that digital going to be shining in the back of homes? And I don't know if those neighborhoods are aware of the fact that this is a digital application. I don't know if that information was conveyed to them.
It was, yes, sir.
Because I don't see it here in my materials, and maybe I just missed it.
They don't need a variance for the digital.
Okay.
It's permitted on the arterial
But do you
street.
remember in the past when we had the church issues come up, and we decided to limit the time of day that they could have the digital on and off?
In those cases, they needed a variance to have the digital.
Okay.
In this case, the digital's permitted.
Okay.
So as part of the notification that went to the Gaillardia neighborhood, they were not aware that this would be a digital sign, because it wasn't required. A variance wasn't required, so there was no notification requirement.
Correct.
I think those people might not be all that happy to find out after the fact.
Yeah. I think we need to make sure they're properly notified and have the right to have somebody here to speak to that, the digital aspect of the sign, especially in light of the fact that it's 10.5 feet.
I have my concerns, and I would concur with Mark if we could, perhaps continue this and ask for a notification within the boundaries of notification and a clarification that says, this is not a variance, it's not required for this. But I think in an effort to, be fair and fully disclose.
And just to be good neighbors, so
and to be
everybody
good
gets along.
neighbors. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to support your application as it stands. What I would support is a continuance and a full notification about, the sign that you're proposing within the, 300 foot of the notification requirement. And even though you don't have to, we think it's probably wise to make sure that they know what the type of sign is that you're proposing.
When's our next meeting? February 6th?
January 16th.
Is
I
that,
think the thing to do would have the applicant obtain something from Gaillardia and come back with that at the next meeting.
Just something.
Okay.
I agree. I think that even though the variance isn't required for the digital aspect, some people may not have known that may have had an objection. The bank sign is directly across from future development in Gaillardia that I think only has one home on it, so that when that notice may have
Well,
been sent out.
we are too.
Okay.
We're in the same place that IBC is. Our sign, you can
Oh,
see
you're right, you are
IBC
right there. Yeah, I see, okay.
And there is one house over there that's a spec house, I believe.
I guess,
if we...
Currently, I don't believe any of these lots have been sold up
If we
through there.
continue this to the
Showing on
16th,
that culvert up there.
if we continue this to the 16th, does that give adequate time for getting a notice out to Gaillardia?
I was suggesting that fall on the applicant to get with Gaillardia and come back with some kind of, either a letter or something from them that states they understand and they don't object.
Do you want to come back to the next hearing on the 16th?
I can try that, but the disarray because of the financial situation that Gaillardia is in, I don't know who
All you
I'm
need
going
to
to find
call
over
is,
there
the
that's
lady's
actually...
name is Lanisa Catlin.
Oh, I know Lanisa very
And you
well.
could call her, and
I
I'm
will.
sure she could handle that.
All right.
Okay.
Very good.
so let's just be sure we're procedurally correct. I guess what you would need to ask for today would be a continuance to our next meeting to allow you to provide documentation from Gaillardia that there are no...
So you want documentation from the country club, or you want documentation from the homeowners
Homeowners Association.
Homeowners Association?
Yeah.
Okay. Of which you're a member, correct?
I am.
All right. Very good.
So we'll need a motion and a second to that effect.
Do we have a motion?
We do not.
I would make a motion to continue to, did we agree to continue to the next January meeting or to the February meeting?
The 16th, I think you can get...
16th's fine.
Yeah.
To January 16th, and the applicant is to provide at that meeting a letter from the Homeowners Association of Gaillardia stating that they fully understand that this is to be a
Digital sign.
A digital sign. And
January 16th?
January
Yes.
16th, or can you do it in that time frame?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd
That's
make
the
a
motion.
second.
All in favor? Okay, none opposed? So item number 4, or item number 3, I'm sorry.
Item number 3, case number 13825, request of Four Corners Construction for a variance to the minimum lot width located at 5724 Southeast 148th Street.
Warren Peacock with WPM
Before we
Design
start,
Group,
is this
representing the
one that-
applicant.
So sorry, just one second. Is this the one that Mr. Voorhees has a conflict?
Mr. Voorhees had a conflict on 1, which we moved after 4.
And we forgot to bring him back in.
We forgot to bring him back in, so he has a conflict here.
Yeah,
So,
because it's a lot nicer weather today than it was the last time I was. I've got Brad Elliott with Four Corners with me. I do have a little exhibit I was going to hold up, and hopefully you all can see this. This lot split is for this lot here, and the reason for it is for 2 lots to the west of that. An existing house was built. There was encroachment onto the next lot that's required us to do actually a split on all 3 lots. We were able to maintain the 120-foot building limit for the 2 of the lots, but the 3rd lot here, we couldn't, and we picked that lot because it has frontage on 2 streets, gives more flexibility for construction of a house. So what we're requesting is the limit variance on the width of the building limit line on that lot, that lot, which is, I'm not sure which lot it is. Lot 1,
Lot
Block
1.
3.
Questions from the,
I see the staff has no unfavorable considerations. Are you aware of anybody that's protesting this application today?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
and a second? All in favor?
Thank you.
Been approved. Did you go get Mr. Voorhees?
Item number 5, case number 13833, request of Robin Castro for a variance to access to an approved street and the minimum lot width located at 14424 and 14550 North Indian Meridian.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so today I'm just simply requesting a variance, and it's 4 adjacent lots according to this.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Robin Bridges Castro, 2712 Manchester Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73120.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as you can see, what's in the middle would be 2 different lots owned by the same owner, and then our lot that we're requesting the variance is the one to the, would be the east side. That'd be it. And basically, there's just an easement allowing access to all properties. Well, there's no property, but all acres of land in that area. And we're requesting the easement, at the variance at this time, so that potentially build and just later on for future utilities of that nature.
Is your intention to build a home or just storage facility and barn facilities?
At this time, storage facility and barn facility.
And you're aware that there are no utilities?
Yes, I'm aware at this time that there are.
Is that a place where you can drill a water well in the event? I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do with that if you don't have access to water.
Yeah, at this time, there are some, free-range cattle and things like that in that area, and so at this time, they would just want storage and issues like that. The family hasn't looked into water sources in that area just because at this time they're not looking to build.
Said back in July, the Joel sought a building permit to build a home.
Yeah, it was looking for like a storage unit home, kind of not a home like a residence to live in, but more of storage and things like that. And so he wanted to build like an actual, what would you call it? Like a storage unit, just like the wooden, landau, just a little bit normal than what you would see at Lowe's or anything like that. More to herd things like.
Have you thought through the access issue, the fact that?
At this time, so the immediate relatives also own the 2 at that time. So right now there's an agreement. They are aware that there could be future issues with access and things like that. But at this time there's an agreement that easement would be allowed to access to in all those areas of that land.
Is that agreement in writing?
I do not. I'd have to look into that.
There's an easement that's recorded with the county.
Okay.
And I do have that there is one person in opposition to the easement. Mr., is it Vord? Vorl, I'm sorry. Could you please approach and tell us what your objection is?
I'm Mike Vorl, and I live at 14615 North Triple X, which is the next road over. The property to the east of that, we own the 160 acres, and my brother that's here with me owns the 160 acres to the south of that property. My reason for opposition is because there's already a home on that property that's not had any building permits purchased. We have a lake, a 30-acre flood control lake right there to the east. You can just see pieces of it. My concern is there's actually, if you do Google Earth, there's actually numerous structures on those properties. It actually goes up to Indian Meridian, the other properties. I'm in the construction business myself. There's not been a building permit purchased for any of those buildings. There's not an approved septic system through DEQ on any of those buildings on any of that property. As far as agricultural, we still have cattle on 480 acres that surround that, and I hate to see it move from any kind of agricultural, especially split into smaller lots where there's not a road goes in there. The home that's there runs off of a generator. They don't have electricity. None of those buildings, there's not any electrical into that whole area. And because all those buildings have been built without any permits, without any, they've just had complete disregard to any laws to this point. Ms. Castro actually isn't I don't know if this is okay or not, but she's not one of the landowners. And I don't know if that's okay that she applies for this.
That is okay that she applies.
That is okay. All you have to do is live in Oklahoma City.
You can be a representative of the landowner, yeah.
Oh, okay. I read a lot of, I'm not an attorney, and I didn't read all so I just got on and looked at everything that I could. But, my fear is they've had complete disregard for any kind of ordinances, building codes. Whenever we built our home on the other side of the lake, we had to hire an engineer to state that we were 2 foot above the dam level. About all of that property that you're looking at is below that elevation. So the home that's already there, in my speculation, is already below that elevation. And what else would you have for me? I don't understand exactly either. Those lots are 320 feet wide, and it says a variance for 150-foot wide. Would that mean that they want to split those lots again?
Can you answer that?
Do you want me to answer that? Or
Yeah,
do you want
answer
me to
that, and
answer
then
it?
we'll come back and
Okay.
answer some questions and respond.
Like it was said before, it is a family that owns the lots, so they're not splitting to do any dividing, to do any building or anything like that. It's mainly splitting up to, in the future, if they want a residential home, we would look into most of that. And but to answer the question, yes, for the 100-foot minimum width is what we're.
Let's go back. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned additional buildings. What are those buildings? Are we talking like?
So Mr. Vorel mentioned on Google Earth looking at various buildings. I'm not aware of any of those buildings. The only thing I am aware of is there is, like I mentioned to Mr. Austin before, was a storage unit that is on that one parcel of land. And you're wondering, I'm sorry, one more time.
What those other structures were, if they were
Yeah,
storage and
that's
they were
it.
temporal?
Yeah,
or-
there's no residential, no one lives there, no one resides there. I mean, like I said, there's not a definite address, so there's no, and that's one of the reasons. It's just kind of like, we wanted to get this variance to do a stepping stone to see what would be needed to line everything up, to follow rules and regulations in building.
I guess my biggest hurdle is, well, everybody's family out there, and everybody's got an easement, they've got a restriction, everybody's getting along, and then when you decide, I just want to be sure, are your clients aware that when you decide to sell this property, you could have some
Yes.
litigation, and it could be a hurdle to selling?
They are aware of that, and I cannot remember specifically the case number, but there's one that I looked at, and I'm just going to give you the number out there. It was at 22 minutes. It was, I think it was about a year ago. Similar situation to this one. It was similar family, and I had them watch that. And so they watched it and saw that they had to be aware that there'd be access, that there could be debates and litigations regarding that in the future. If that really helps out.
I think that, I don't want to defer to everybody else to ask questions, but that bothers me that we would be approving something or granting something that we know could be a potential issue later, and then we also have somebody in opposition. So
I guess to be clear, the issue regarding the easement, so that is obviously something that we're not dealing with today as to whether or not an easement would be
the reason it's
situated
recorded,
and granted,
right.
and yeah, exactly.
Questions?
It seems to me that there has been an easement filed of record, a public record, and in the past, if we've approved a variance similar to this, we have made the record abundantly clear that we can't affect private disputes between the parties that may occur and be litigated in civil court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little uncomfortable, and of course, I'm fairly new to this process, but it seems to me that this is sort of a piecemeal approach to achieving something that is a bigger plan, but they're just not sure what the plan is or whether they're really ready to put it in motion. I'd rather wait until they are ready to put it in motion and see what it is, rather than take this kind of piecemeal approach that may lead someplace we don't want it to go.
And to just answer that, if I can address that, I don't know if that was open for your discussion or mine. And like you said, it is the first step into doing something larger if that's what the family did wish and intend to do so. But at this time,
Define larger. What does larger mean? I don't
I
understand.
mean, a residential home, I mean, something like that. We're not talking anything commercial, nothing like that at all. No business.
I mean, current plans is just storage space, correct?
Exactly. And so to do that, Ms. Powers, there's an actual, there's just one strip of land coming in for these 4. And so we'd have to kind of situate what is the width in between, because there are, cattle and other things in that area. And so that's what we're...
Could we grant a variance limited to storage space, and they could come back and revisit? Sure.
If you go on the county assessors, 2 years ago, the county assessor realized that there is a home on that property. Until that date, there was never an assessment for a home. If you go on the county assessor's website, there is a home there, an existing home.
Is it abandoned? Is it abandoned?
On the end one, you can see the structure.
But is anybody living there?
Well, they're there all the time. I don't know if they live there. I don't have permission to go on that property.
Sure.
So, but there is a home there. There's an outbuilding already there, and there has never been at the same time there. I checked with DEQ, and the only thing on that whole 80 acres that they've had in the last 10 years is a complaint for dumping trash.
And I would just like to attest to that there is no one living on that. The family that I'm representing today lives here in Oklahoma City, and it's... So that building is a storage unit. I mean,
Do they periodically go out there and stay the weekends? I mean, what's...
They do go out there periodically, take care of different things with the land, mow it, upkeep, basis like that. So if there is an outhouse, that's for the purposes, but there's no... it's not your lake house weekend getaway, no. I mean, it's not equipped for that.
Sure. Let me ask you this, sir. If we granted the variance limited to them developing at this time some type of storage space for cattle, horses, et cetera, is that something you would be opposed to also?
Well, my opposition is the way the whole thing has been handled to this point.
Yeah, I can't deal with what's happened in the past.
Okay.
We're here to just decide the limited issue as to whether a variance...
We have the lake there. Someone does stay at that home a lot.
Okay.
And there's no septic tank, no approved septic tank.
Okay.
And I'm opposed, if you guys approve that and they split it in more lots, there's more homes built and more areas and no approved septic tanks, no building permits, I guess I don't understand how. The people in all that area across the road have all bought building permits.
I think one of the things that's given you a little heartburn, and maybe we could clarify this and make everybody come to a compromise, is the variance was written to develop the property. Really, there's no specific plan on what's going to be on the property. And maybe if that were...
The variance is written, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. The variance is written for that, and then secondly, that if we were to leave the property as is, I mean, it's useless.
It's useless.
It's just property out there that this family owns 10 acres of. So, I mean, the point of having property is, economical value, and that's what we're wanting to just better the property and have it set out that way.
I understand, I'm sympathetic to that issue, and nobody wants a property that's not going to have any economic value. But let's just use, for an example, say you wanted to build a barn with some storage, and you submitted those plans as part of the record, and you also had, the neighbors had an opportunity to object, maybe come to some compromise. I think that...
I guess what I'm having a hard time with Mr. Verrill's objection is that he lives on the other street off of Meridian. So if anyone would have an objection, which was included in this record, that we went out, was it a 5-mile radius? Oh, he's within it. Okay, he's on the east side, but went in with a 5-mile radius, and we've asked for, so there's no other objections to the other landowners that are adjacent to us and anything like that, so.
Actually, my brother owns the 160 acres just to the south, and I own the 160 to the east.
Yeah. I was referring to,
In order to get any building permits on the property and do anything legal out there, they've got to get deed approval.
But am I correct in understanding that the system has worked? They applied for a building permit and were denied, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so that's why we're here today.
Why we're here,
Yes.
because
And
they've got
the
to...
building permit, what I'm unclear on, was it for a storage facility or was it for a private residence? And I'm still unclear on that. And so I think what needs to happen today is that you need to speak with your neighbors, give us some time to take a look at this and come back another day, because I'd like to drive out there and take a look at it, if that's okay with you.
What I would suggest is a continuance, and the applicant make arrangements to have an inspector, city inspector, come out, and we'll go out and do an inspection of the property and see exactly what's there and what's not.
And when's our first February meeting?
If I might ask, while they're trying to decide that, your client's family
yes.
owns property that does in fact go up to the street here? Properties here or here?
No, ma'am, but we've, actually, what we've asked for good wishes on all those areas. Is that what you're asking?
Your clients do not own any of this property between here and the road?
No, they own the 10 acres that's marked in that, right?
They own this and this?
Yes,
And
in
that's
between,
it?
in between, all that.
And everything in between?
Yes.
But nothing up here?
No.
Okay.
I would make a motion to continue this application until the February 6th meeting, and as part of that motion, I would ask that a city inspector go out and inspect the property and report back to us prior to that meeting.
Agree.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you for your time.
And visit with your neighbors.
Item number 6, case number 13834, request of MA Architecture for a variance to the maximum height requirement and sign regulations located at 2501 North May Avenue.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcia Gallant. I'm with MA Plus Architecture. Our address is 4000 North Classen Boulevard, Suite 100N, Oklahoma City, 73118. We have a three-part issue on our variance today. The first part would be the height of the press box that we were constructing out there. We had a variance back in, I believe it was March of 2013, for the height of the press box, and what we were doing at that time, the original design, was the same height as the existing press box that has since been torn down. We now have a professional soccer group that is wanting to come in and utilize the stadium. They have a lease agreement with Oklahoma City Public Schools, and as part of their lease agreement, they are asking for some updates to our original design. Part of that includes a change to the bleacher layout, so we actually have...
Change to what? I couldn't hear you.
The bleachers themselves.
Yes.
They're still code compliant, there's no issues, with the bleachers. But what it does is it raises the back aisle from our original design. So it makes them a little bit steeper for sightline reasons. And because we have that back aisle raised, we want to raise the height of the press box so that the people using the press box can see the field. And, the coaches can accurately see what the players are doing. This would increase it by about 4'6", just less than 5 foot from our original design. And that's pretty much the press box issue.
What's the need for the change to the bleachers? Is it to add additional seating?
We are actually not increasing the seating capacity any. It's just for better sight lines because the professional soccer has a wider field than the high school soccer and the high school football. And so in order for the fans that are in the bleachers to be able to see, the increased width of the field, we're increasing
Makes sense.
the height of the bleachers.
Good.
Our second issue, I'm sorry, are there any more questions on the press box item? Okay, the second item is we are wanting to add a second sign off of May Avenue for, just field identification. Right now, on the historic WPA wall, there's a Taft logo, and so that would count as our first sign. The second sign is a freestanding monumental sign. It's just 2 steel columns with a steel beam that spans the two, and then interior lit letters identifying the field name. This sign stands about 24 feet tall, but it is in front of the WPA wall. Forget the distance away, it's about 20 feet, but it's between the parking lot and the WPA wall. So it's set
Do we
back
have a
from
picture
me.
of that sign available to us today?
I believe it was with our packet that we turned in, but I do not have that with me.
And that monumental sign identifies the field?
Right, it would just say whatever name they want to give the field. Right now, we're designating OKC Field,
Item
just
number
as a placeholder.
45 in your packet.
But it would just, once they decide on a field name, those letters would state the name.
This is similar. We had a case about 3 or 4 months ago. Was it Southeast High School where a similar thing was happening, where they had to have multiple schools playing in the same stadium?
It just went past it. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that wasn't it. Keep going.
There it is.
There it is. Yep, move it up.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I live on Denniston Drive. I just
Oh,
want to be sure.
go ahead. Would you please come to the podium? Sorry, I didn't.
I live on Denniston Drive, and I just want to be sure where that sign is. Is it going to be towards May Avenue? Or
Right.
towards the back of the
It will be towards May Avenue, off of the parking lot.
And how high is that new concrete stadium going to be? Because that backs up to my property.
The highest point of the interior of the stadium would actually be the press box, and, let's see,
The backside of the outside.
right, that will be on the back side. It is 59 feet, 8 inches from the plaza level, which is actually a little bit lower than it currently is, so I would say it's about 55 feet from the current level.
So in the front part of the old stadium, is that going to be higher than the old stadium seating?
The seating
Ma'am,
itself
ma'am,
will be
I
lower.
need you to step up. I didn't get a slip that you want to speak. Could you give your name and address for the record, please?
I'm sorry, I'm Beth Moore at 2604 Denniston Drive, and my home backs up to the alley right behind the old Taft Stadium.
Okay.
So is that on the east side of the property where you live?
Pardon?
Would that be east?
Yes, I'm on the east side of Denniston.
Okay.
Well, there's only one street there,
It's
and then
the
there's
west side
Denniston
of the stadium.
Lake. Denniston.
Question was, I
Yes,
couldn't hear you.
okay, I'm sorry.
Your question was regarding the height of that sign?
Yes, unfortunately, I missed the very first meetings that they had, and I'm discovering some things that are causing me issues, and I just want to be sure what's going on here
Okay.
today.
Yeah, the sign itself, you won't see the sign. It'll be between the WPA wall that's out by the parking lot, actually on the parking lot sign of it. So the sign won't be an issue at all.
And the stadium that backs up to the alley is going to be about the same height as the old stadium?
It will, the press box will be about 5 feet taller than it was before.
And that's going to be on my side?
Right.
On the alley side?
Right. But we will be having a site screening wall come up on the west side of the stadium. So between your property and the press box, there will be a site screen wall about 7 foot tall.
7 foot, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So there were 3 aspects to the application?
Right. Were there any more questions about the extra sign, the second sign?
There's the extra sign, the banner, and the press
Right.
box.
Right, I have not covered the
increase.
banners yet.
Okay.
Okay, if I'm moving along to the banners, the pro soccer group, also for identification of the stadium itself, to give the stadium a professional feel, they would like to put up banners. This will be in 2 locations. At the existing WPA wall, we're putting a new ornamental metal fence on top of the stone wall. Along that fence, they want to be able to hang banners. So it won't be any higher than, than the fence is. It'll just, there are no banners allowed right now per the current zoning. So they would like to put banners along that fence line just to give it a professional stadium feel.
And will the banners be out there 365 days or just game days?
No, just game days, and maybe, a day before, a day after preparation and cleanup, sort of. The other location we would have banners would be on the stadium lighting poles. We have banner arms that come off of the poles, and they would hang the banners just, again, for game days. And those actually would only be on the 2 east side lights. They would not be at all 4 lights.
Is there anything in the contract with the school system about the banners and when the banners may be hung and when they must be taken down?
I am not aware. I've never actually seen that lease agreement.
Because I think it would be helpful maybe for us just not to assume, the good judgment would prevail and that they would only be up there, and we may want to define, an acceptable period of time around a game, 2 or 3 days before, 2 or 3 days after, for the banners to be, placed and removed.
Well, and if they're in the state playoffs, they may want them up all week before. I mean, it just depends.
Whatever. Well, I guess, what I think about is that when we approve the banners without restriction, we may have been led to believe that they're up, 2 or 3 days in advance of an event, but there's really nothing to stop them unless, there's something in the agreement with the school system.
Maybe just want to play devil's advocate here. If you had the National Soccer League and they were in session for the month of June, just hypothetically speaking, they wanted to put it up for a month, I would hate to have something that limited that.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to micromanage this. I'm just stating that, if we approve it, it's regardless of what they tell us their intentions are today, they can have banners up there all the time.
Well, I think what we can put in the motion is that they will not be up there daily, 365 days a year. They'll just be up there periodically, and let them have some discretion.
I definitely think they need some discretion, and I don't think it's our position to manage them.
I agree with that. I'd be willing to entertain that motion if anybody else doesn't have any questions.
I actually am not as concerned about the banners as I am about, do I understand that this is something that you all have heard before, and you're just
We dealt with a similar issue
making a few little
at
adjustments to
Crossings,
it,
with the
tweaking it a
Crossings
bit?
Stadium.
Yes, we've dealt with the issue at Crossings, Southeast, Capitol Hill. What happened is they came back, they actually originally asked for 45 feet, and after they got their design done on one part of it, and they contracted with this soccer group, which we didn't know about at the time of the original application, to make all those parameters fit. It's about 4 feet, 6 inches taller than what it was previously. So they're coming back on that part of the application asking for an additional 4 feet.
Which is 4 feet taller than the old test.
And do we know, for instance, what the fence is going to be made of? It's going to be put up on the top of the old wall, and do we know?
It will be an ornamental metal fence, a black, just kind of your standard wrought iron fence. Yeah.
That was approved in the first, was that approved in the first? Yeah, that was approved in the original application.
Okay. And did we go through discussions about lighting and bleed over into the neighborhoods and noise and hours of operation and things like that?
It is an existing stadium.
It is, but it was not built for this kind of use. I mean, it was built a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thrilled to see that it might be getting a new life, but nonetheless, the impact on a very, very nearby neighborhood to the east, I think deserves some consideration. So my question stands, did we talk about that stuff?
No, I believe that sporting events are exempt from the lighting, and I know they're exempt from the noise ordinance.
So hours of operation and all that kind of thing, they're kind of beyond our
I don't know if
ken?
it comes within our jurisdiction on a variance. I really
see.
don't.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Is there a motion? Yeah. Would you please re-articulate?
I don't know if I can articulate it again. What's your motion? What do you want your motion to be? You want the
Approve all three
You
items,
want the
please.
things changed.
What's that?
You have three issues. You have the banner, you have the monument, and the bleachers, correct?
The press box
Okay.
size, yes.
And then there was some concern about the banners being up. You say that it will be limited in nature.
As
And
far as
so,
I'm aware.
Would you entertain a motion that adopts all three of those requests for variance, but as to the banners, that it be noted in the record that it's limited in duration? They can't be up 365 days out of the year.
That would be fine with me.
All right, that's my motion. Don't ask me to do it again.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Okay.
Item number 7, case number 13835, request of OU Physicians for a variance to the sign regulations located at 14101 Northeastern Avenue.
Hello,
Good afternoon.
Matt Hinkle with Tyler Media representing the OU Physicians.
Let me disclose again, I've got a relationship with the sign company, not the applicant on this one.
You need to self-determine. Do you see that you would not have any conflict?
Go ahead.
In a nutshell, the property, which is the northwest corner of Eastern and Memorial, was written in a PUD years ago that there was one ground sign allowed. The property use has since changed from, I think it was going to be an amusement park, to there's a hospital on the corner now who got the one ground sign, and there's been considerable development going back to the north. We were denied permit application for that reason. Reading further into the PUD, we are allowed a small ground sign, but the way it sets on the property is there's an easement and then a finger that comes out into the parking lot, and that's where that sign would set. So at the 8-foot height that the PUD would allow, it would be hidden by cars. This is not a giant sign. It's simply a doctor's identification sign with the name OU Physician Center up at the top of it. Considerably smaller than what a normal sign would be. They're just looking for some identification out on the road. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I guess the question that I would have is, staff says there does not appear to be anything unique or peculiar about this property that would justify going beyond the 8 feet in height. Do you have a problem with limiting?
Well, the issue is that the roadway is up here, and there's probably a 5 or 6 foot slope from the roadway down to where the sign would set in the parking lot. And like I said, there's a finger in the parking lot where the sign would set, so there'd be cars on either side of that, so you'd be blocked. I mean, the sign would basically be, we need a 4-foot ground clearance on that sign to get it up above the roofs of the cars so people can see it, or it's not worth building.
So what you're saying is it's directional in nature. It's to help direct traffic.
Yes, it's...
And if it's not higher than 8 feet, it would create a problem because the average person in a car wouldn't see it. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I mean, a semi might be able to look down on it, but it would be hidden, especially with the landscaping that the city now requires. It would just be hidden in a parking lot, and you wouldn't be able to see it. You might see the top of it that says OU Physicians, but the doctor's names and who you're going to see, and,
sure,
you know, it's just a small directory sign. Small, not tiny, but...
And it's smaller than what would be allowed under C3 zoning.
Correct.
But the signage, the actual signage would be somewhat different than this rendering? You're saying with the physicians' names be on it rather than what's characterized here?
I'm not sure what you're looking at, but yes, the part of the part of the design of the sign is individual physicians' names that are practicing there at the OU Physicians facility, and those would be changeable, just like directories are. I mean, kind of like your names on the thing there are.
Because if the sign's 8 feet, you know, people from the street will be able to read OU Physicians Edmond. They may not necessarily, it's like I said, if there's a car parked close by, be able to read, the full content of the sign, but I'm not sure that that's enough to, they know their destination is OU Physicians in Edmond, and then when they get there, they look for the particular office or doctor's office that they're looking for.
Like I said in the beginning, we were denied saying that we couldn't have a ground sign at all. And so what you're looking at there is the final design on the structure itself, but definitely not the final design on the wording on the sign. So you are correct in saying that the OU Physicians up at the top would most likely be visible at the 8-foot height, but everything below that would not.
But once they're there, I mean, there's going to be other directional signage, I'm assuming, to help people find the...
Well, on the doors, there's no other signage in the parking lot or
around the building.
Would be allowed in the parking lot. We'd be back in this process again also. So,
how many doctors practice in that complex?
6, I believe.
So basically, instead of saying cardiology, family medicine, it'd say Dr. Jones, Dr. Smith, probably the same size lettering, et cetera.
Once again, we've been a year in this process, not to you guys' fault. It's been the university trying to decide whether they want to go through the variance process to get a ground sign. So I'm not 100% for sure what the listings on the sign will be. That's fairly generic. I'm sure they would put doctors' names on there, but it would probably be Dr. Voorhees, cardiology, doctor. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like Mike says, we're friends. I'd let him operate on me, too.
Any other questions?
Well, I think if you're telling us that it's directional in purpose, it's to help the driver find where they need to go, whether it's cardiology or urology or whatever, and then if you're telling me because of the unique nature of the topography, it needs to be a little higher, then I don't have a problem with that. But I need you to tell me that that's the case.
That is the case. It's the ground slopes down from road grade down to the parking lot. So the way it sets in the parking lot is at those dimensions right there. If we were to keep the sign the same size but bring it down to the 8 foot in height, you would not see anything but OU Physicians on the top of it.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made and second.
Second.
The motion carries.
Thank you guys very much.
Item number 8, case number 13836, request of Triple D, Inc. for a variance to the required number of parking spaces and to allow parking and maneuvering in the public right-of-way located at 5401 Southwestern Avenue.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for letting me approach you today. Cliff Aldridge, address is 12300 Southeast 30th Place, Choctaw, address Oklahoma City city limits. We bought the building there at 5401 Southwestern. And what we're asking for is we're trying to put in a little donut and deli shop, but I believe it requires around 33 parking spots for us to be able to do that. We can't put 33 parking spots in there. We're asking for a variance to use the right-of-way to extend the parking lot out some on the property to add another 10 parking spots, but that still leaves us about 6 to 7, I believe, parking spots short of around the 33 required. So we're asking for the variance to use the right-of-way to add those 10, but more importantly, we're asking for a variance to come up about 7 parking lot spaces short of the 33 required.
There's a comment from the city talking about the encroachment in the public right-of-way and its negative effects and our ability to get federal aid. Judge, I've never seen that before in a year of being on the board. Could you kind of explain that a little more, what they're meaning by that?
Traffic management comment, I'm not sure.
Questions?
I had the opportunity to go by this property, and the property sits right at 53rd and Western, and across the street to the north is a child care facility. Is the right-of-way that you're looking to use, is it on 53rd Street?
Right-of-way, no, the right-of-way is on Western. if you drive up and down Western, of course, that's been given to a lot of different entities up and in businesses up and down Western where they've been able to extend their parking lots toward Western Avenue to add parking spots. So that is what I'm asking for the right-of-way.
So you're looking to take more parking to the south?
Would actually be toward of the parking lot. The additional parking spots would be to the east side of where the building sits now, if that makes sense, Mr. Austin.
To take some of the grassy area?
Correct.
And to build parking spaces there?
Correct. We can get about 10 parking spots in that area right there in that grass area, and still leave a grassed area between the curb and the parking spots as well. Do some landscaping along that grass area.
It looks like it would line up with the medical office just to the south?
It would probably line up to the medical office from the south. It would probably line up to the daycare facility to the north. I have a list of properties up and down Western that there's some that actually, the only thing between their parking lot and the curb on Western is a sidewalk. So we're not going as far as other businesses have, but it does pretty much line up with a doctor's office and the daycare facility.
Would this affect the bus stop that's right in front of his place of business?
I don't think it's going to affect the bus stop because we're not going out that far. It's still going to be there.
They've still got room for the required room for the bench and for people to wait for the bus?
As far as I know, there is, Mr. Austin.
There's also a parking lot. It appears an old parking lot behind this building, and my understanding is it may not be available. It may belong to an adjacent property owner.
Actually, it's not, the full thing is not a parking lot. I believe in our conversation earlier, there's a little bit of, I think you can see a little bit of where there was a house behind there, and they took the house out and left the driveway there. The doctor to the south of me owns that, and we've been in conversations with him in an effort to buy that for additional parking, and we're not making any headway with that right now. There was an option or a thought about leasing it. We haven't approached him with that. I know the city, if I do that, is going to require me to go in and either pave it or put concrete in there, and I don't know that I'm really in the mood to pave or concrete the doctor's parking lot and then him decide he doesn't want to renew my lease 2 years later. So
I think that's a prudent decision. I had a couple questions. You're only going to use 1,800 square feet for the deli donut shop.
Correct.
And the other 1,200 is...
There's an office currently in there that we're going to keep as the office. There's 2 restrooms, there's a heat and air closet, and then the rest of it's for the kitchen and storage.
And your whole purpose is, you're not going to have, the city is looking at it, one building is 3,000 square feet, and you're going to have this part that's a deli, which is going to require more foot traffic and parking.
Correct.
Those parts, that's office space. And how many people will you have working in that office space? Like how many employees?
You mean back in the kitchen area?
Yeah.
3 to 5.
Okay.
And we're open, the deli would be open from 6 to 2, so we're not going after the evening traffic or anything like that.
In some of these situations before, we've had a little bit more comfort in conditioning it, the use of it. Maybe that may be prudent here, as long as so much is office space. This is used as a deli, that we condition the use.
Yeah, are you okay with that if the vote is to approve, to condition the variance on this particular use? Because if it's C3, there's lots of stuff that can go in a C3 that's going to be probably more high traffic than a limited service donut sandwich.
We're just saying, if you ever chose to change your business, you'd have to come back before us.
Absolutely. Actually, this is a business venture to my wife. I'm in the insurance business, so if her business doesn't make it, I'm going to move my insurance office in there, and it will be a completely different usage, which would be probably, actually, I wouldn't even have to have a variance to create an insurance office at all. So there won't be anything other than a donut and deli, other than an insurance office.
So it would be limited to this business and limited in duration of hours from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Does the donut side of the business run till 2, or does it, What are the hours of the donut side of the business and the deli side?
It's all 6 to 2. Actually, it was, the concept was if you stay open till 2 and you do a deli, make a deli available, then you can get rid of the rest of your donuts. A lot of your donut shops close at 11 o'clock, and then they throw their donuts away. And I told her, I said, don't throw the donuts away. Sell them for 25 cents with a deli sandwich and get rid of them and at least recoup your expenses on making the donuts. So that was the whole intent of it. But we'll quit making donuts about 8 o'clock would probably be the last batch that was made.
Well, this building's been vacant.
As far as the,
I'm glad somebody's
there was a comment, I think, about the 1,800 square feet or limiting it to that. There's actually a dividing wall in that building already from when the Wonder Bread store had it. And 1,800 was their display retail area. The backside was their warehouse. That wall is staying intact, and that's actually what's dividing
My comment was, just conditioning the use as for this purpose. I don't know if we necessarily need to go and condition the hours or anything. I mean,
Let me ask this. How long has this building been vacant?
When I had the gas turned on, they said it was shut off in January. So I don't know when Wonder Bread actually went out of business and when they shut their thrift stores down, but it was a while.
it's been at least 7 or 8 years because we had a property that they vacated on us.
I think we've always been pro-business, and we want to help any way we can, but we need certain limitations in case the usage of the building changes.
I have no plans to change the usage other than to my private business.
The easiest thing might be is to limit the seating area to a certain square footage, the 1,800 square feet.
Is that okay
That's
with you?
a great
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way it's already designed. That was our intent to keep it that way.
Okay. Any other questions?
I can support the application with that stipulation. My only concern is not trying to keep you from this endeavor, but simply looking at that parking lot, thinking about the adjacent businesses, thinking about street parking, the neighborhood that backs right up to that house, and just trying to make sure that we don't create a scenario where it becomes problematic. I hope that it's wildly successful and that your parking lot's full. And
My concern on these deals is not typically the applicant standing here, but in years down the road, if you sell the building to somebody else, C3 lets lots of different uses in. And that's my concern.
Okay.
Did somebody write down all the stipulations?
1,800 feet?
I'll attempt to do it. I'll make a motion to approve the application for a variance, subject to it being limited to a dining area of only 1,800 square feet, and subject to it being used as a donut and deli shop only. If that changes, then you would have to come back and seek a new variance.
And a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Go Sooners.
Item number 9, case number 13837, request of the City of Oklahoma City for a variance to the building setback requirements of the downtown business district located at 700 Colcord Drive.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Llewellyn with the Oklahoma City Public Works Department, and we're requesting a variance on the setback. This is classified as a critical facility. It's a public safety building, and we just like to increase the setback or the building line back to provide more protection against blasts or other incidents.
It's for a safety factor.
Yes.
Correct. I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There being no other items on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We're adjourned.